My father's voice echoed behind me as I walked away from his familiar words of chastisement. If only he knew how much I was walking away from, or how much I was determined to leave behind that very night. Hello listeners, welcome to Unheard Voices, a Wikitimes bi-weekly podcast dedicated to bringing to light the often overlooked and silenced experience of women. Throughout history, women's voices have been marginalized and their narratives brushed aside. In northern Nigeria, the voices of women are rarely given a platform, and the few who summon the courage to speak out often face stigmatization. At times, societal pressures compel them to withdraw even when confronted with the profound act of dehumanization. In this podcast, we dive deep into the untold narratives of women, spotlighting their triumphs and struggles in the face of challenges such as forced marriage, gender-based violence, discrimination, and oppression. Unheard Voices aims to change this by offering a platform for women to share their stories. Each episode tells a compelling story of women, from the hardships endured within marriages to the discrimination and societal stigmas linked to diseases. Unheard Voices amplifies the voices of women who have faced these challenges head-on, emerging with resilience and strength. By telling these stories, Wikitimes hope to create a more inclusive and equitable society. Join us on this journey as we give voice to the unheard, challenge societal norms, and work towards a world where every woman's story is heard and cherished. Tune into Unheard Voices and prepare to be moved, inspired, and enlightened by the untold stories of women in northern Nigeria. Join me as we listen to Zainab's story. My name is Zainab. I married my cousin 14 years ago when I was just 16 and he was twice older. But aside from familiarity, we were not in love. It was an arranged marriage, a tradition our families had successfully practiced for years. Apparently, I was young and naive, expecting marriage to be a bed of roses. But 2 years later, I had miscarried 3 pregnancies from Yusuf's constant hitting. It didn't take me long to realize that there was intolerance and impatience lying in his quiet attitude. While my husband appeared docile to everyone, he was violent in the 4 walls of our home. I took responsibility for every misunderstanding that issued between us because I knew how much he was respected and admired by all. So I felt I was doing something wrong. Yusuf made sure that my basic needs were well taken care of. But my marriage was a living hell, to say the least. The red flags were glaring, but my family turned a blind eye to my scars. I walked on eggshells around my house, careful not to upset my husband, who will turn me into a punching bag at the slightest chance. I dare not make a lot of noise or delay his meal, even on days when I was sick. My once bubbly and cheerful self slowly became downtrodden. While hiding my battles away from family and friends, I futilely strived to right my wrongs. At a point, I just accepted the chaos and embraced patience as a virtue, like it is preached to every northern Nigerian woman. My gloom was not lost on my family, or so I thought. But if arranged marriages have always worked out for the family, why should mine be different? It is a question no one dared to ask. So I trudged along the pebbles, learning to hide the realities behind smiles that weren't true. In our 4th year, I gave birth to my first son, and that was the year I confirmed Yusuf's drug addiction. When I complained to his parents, they blamed me for being an incompetent wife who washed her dirty linen in public. They warned me not to speak about it to anyone, including my parents. So I went back home, convinced they were right. Our young son became wedged between 2 damaged parents. I sought happiness from bonding with my baby even when his father seemed oblivious of his presence. But that didn't give me an escape from my reality. I got tired of praying and enduring like my parents repeated during every encounter because I found solace in neither. But despite Yusuf's violent behavior, I realized he found solace in his drugs. We were only at peace when he was high on them. So I decided to give it a try. I stole some of his pills and tried them. At first, it was unpleasant and strange, but I got used to them, sharing the solace my husband enjoyed. Before long, he realized what was happening and gave me the beating of my life, dragging me back to my parents' house. Nobody sided with me. I didn't expect them to. My mother cried and cried, repeatedly expressing how much I had disgraced her. They begged my husband to take me back, promising on my behalf never to abuse drugs again. He took me back, but nothing changed. I had become stoic at that point, thinking of an exit plan. I knew this marriage was coming to an end. The following year, our parent convinced my husband to enroll me back to school. I started attending a polytechnic, and there I made a lot of friends. I became exposed to a lot of married women who suffered similar plight to mine. Their only escape was into the drug world, and I joined their clique wholeheartedly. I found a reason to be happy again. I kept my friends away from my home as much as I could because I noticed the suspicious stares Yusuf gave them the few times they were there. By that time, my son was approaching his third year, but he mostly stayed with his grandparents, and that was a huge relief for me. Journeying through motherhood and being a drug addict were two conflicting roles. I knew I was not fit for parenthood. Gradually, I learned to be defensive to Yusuf's hitting, retaliating in the best way I could. One morning, we got into a physical fight and I hit him in the head. Yusuf fainted. I became hysterical, thinking I had killed him. Our neighbors rushed him to the hospital. His family were outrageous, threatening to expose what I did to Yusuf on social media. My own parent felt miserable. Nobody stood for me. Yusuf woke up on a hospital bed hours later, and even before he uttered the words, I knew my marriage was over. Despite the chastisement, I have never felt so free in my life. I felt 16 again, ready to start afresh. But I was wrong. My family let me back home, but never accepted me. There was always a constant reminder somewhere telling me that I was a drug addict, a divorcee who tried to kill her husband. They even said I was lucky Yusuf's parents did not report me to the authorities because I was family. I started staying out late from school, visiting friends. That was my only escape from the chaos. My father became enraged with my attitude by the day, more angered by my indifference. I stayed out late one night and came back to meet him standing by the door. He ordered me to go back to wherever I was coming from. Typically, I could have begged him because I had nowhere to go, but I didn't. I took that as my cue to free myself from the shackles a second time. So I left. My family weren't worried the first few days, so nobody looked for me, thinking I would come back. That gave me ample time to decide my next destination. Despite locating me later, nobody tried to bring me back home, but I have found the peace I think I deserve. I might return one day, if not for anything, but for my son. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Unheard Voices. What part of Zainab's life did you relate to? This episode was edited by Ajibola Amzat and produced by Haruna Muhammad. Stay tuned next week for more empowering stories in our upcoming episodes. You can share your comments, personal experiences, and feature in our podcast by sending us a message at unheardvoices@wikitimes.com or 09021800574. Don't miss out on our updates. You can always listen to Unheard Voices and even more stories on our website at www.wikitimes.com. See you next time. I'm Salman Nuhu. Bye.